I thought quite a lot about mothers this morning. Just received a couple of texts from my sisters quite early this morning, wishing me a happy Mother's Day. I have children. And I was really thinking about the heroic efforts of mothers to help keep their children safe and happy. Really unbelievable. And, you know, then fathers too. Sometimes fathers are the mothers, the caregivers as well. So how it is that those close to us, those we hold really dear, we just long for them to be happy. And it's quite unfortunate that we can't make them happy. You know, we would like to, and we do our very best to give them what they think they want, but sometimes we just can't. We can't help them happy. I've thought a lot about that recently, and I think it's an important thing to contemplate, because oftentimes as a mother, we may feel it like a failure if our children are unhappy and we can't bring them happiness to their doorstep. We all are responsible for our own happiness. That's the truth. And we can do the best we can to be present for our children. All of our children are universal children. You know, all of them. We can do our best to be present and to love them wherever they are. So that's my lesson for myself, thinking about that. Last month, we discussed the 3 levels of faith. Some of you were at those teachings. The first we meet a teacher or a teaching and we're inspired by them. And then with further exploration, we aspire to become like them, to actualize the teaching with a belief that we actually can, that we can manifest as they are, that it's possible for us with effort and perseverance. And then lastly, with verified faith or conviction, we have this unassailable attitude or conviction because of our own experiences. So when we take refuge, repeating the refuge prayer 3 times, we have an opportunity to consider those 3 levels of refuge. For first, we're taking refuge, our outer refuge, in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, with an admiring faith in their qualities. And secondly, we take refuge in the mind of enlightenment, seeing emptiness directly, and in the Arya beings who have. And this is an manifestation of admiring or aspiring faith. We admire the Buddha, the teachings, and those who are on the path, and we aspire to have that mind of enlightenment. And finally, with faith of conviction, we take refuge with confidence in the knowledge, and this is so important, that the nature of our own mind is wisdom. Its expression is clarity, and its compassion is all pervasive. So this is ultimate refuge. And as we begin our practice, let's set our intention to attain full awakening and thereby be of maximum benefit to all sentient beings as we cultivate great compassion and perfect wisdom. So please settle into your meditation seat. Relaxed, vigilant, and still. Calming the mind with awareness of the natural rhythm of the breath, taking stock of the feelings within body and mind. Settle with the breath in the body. As much as possible, releasing any tension you may have in the body. Breathing into it and giving it permission to soften, to release. Relaxed and at ease, please bring to mind someone who manifests for you all the awakened qualities that you wish to have. It could be Shakyamuni Buddha, the Dalai Lama, your heart teacher, someone for whom you have great admiration for their qualities of love, compassion, wisdom, and skillful means. Take a moment to remember them and to gaze into their face. Feel their loving presence and remember their smiling eyes. Cultivate a gratitude that they're in your life. And then remembering the 3 levels of refuge. Turn to them, seek refuge, and ask for blessings. I go for refuge until enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. By my virtuous actions of giving and so on, may I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. By my virtuous actions of giving and so on, may I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. I go for refuge until enlightenment to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. By my virtuous actions of giving and so on, may I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. How wonderful it would be if all beings had happiness and all its causes, if we were free of suffering and all its causes, if we were never separated from higher rebirths, and if we would abide in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and hatred. Then think, I will help us to have these. Please, may I awake and realize every level on the path to enlightenment. And we beseech our Lama, may I be inspired by Guru devotion, uplifted by the preciousness of this human life, shed the fetters of attachment and aversion through a knowledge of impermanence, be protected by refuge, guided by a knowledge of actions and their results. Aim for liberation through renunciation. May I be motivated by bodhicitta, opened by giving, disciplined by ethical behavior, strengthened by patience, enthused by joyous effort, stabilized by concentration, and freed by wisdom. Please, may I become fully awakened for the welfare of all beings. Think that as the embodiment of all enlightened qualities, your Lama accepts your request. They melt into a small sphere of light and descend through your crown, down through the center of your body, and come to rest at your heart center. Feel a responsibility to offer the loving kindness you feel there to every living being and to remove the suffering of the world. Imagine a world filled with joy, where you rise from bed excited to explore the day, where nature's beauty surrounds you and everyone you meet inspires you with their generosity and love. May we live in such a world, and where we don't find it, may we help create it. We grow our living kindness through the practice of giving and taking. So I invite you, as you inhale, to allow this loving, kind light at your heart to be energized. And as you exhale, allow it to expand. Inhaling, it's energized. And exhaling, it's expanding. Until every cell of your body is filled with warm, gentle, loving kindness. Head to toe and fingertips. Know that you are loved, and it is your nature to love. This expanding light becomes uncontainable, passing through all your pores, creating an aura of loving light around you. As this light continues to expand, let it shine on someone you love. And as you inhale, remove any problems they might have, any sorrows. And as you exhale, fill them with everything they could wish for. Taking away their problems and bringing them joy. And next, bring a stranger to mind. someone you may see from time to time, whose name you don't know, the bank teller, the grocery clerk, a homeless person that you often see sitting in the same spot. Let your loving light go to them. Shine on this stranger. And as you inhale, remove their problems. As you exhale, give them what they need, all they could wish for. And now bring to mind someone you dislike, someone you disagree with, someone whose mere name gives you a headache and threatens to harden your heart. Notice as you do so any shift in your heart mind, perhaps a distaste arising. And then recognize that actually, just like you, they want happiness. They don't want any suffering at all. And just like us, they're blown by their habits and their deluded states of mind. So let your loving light shine with a wish that they could be happy and free from delusion. And as you inhale, remove their causes of suffering. Soften their hearts. And as you exhale, fill them with positive qualities and see them transform. See their harmful behavior change. And now allow your loving light to shine all over the world, removing suffering and happiness. How wonderful it would be if we all cared for one another equally. Inhaling, removing all the problems of the world, and exhaling, filling the world with joy and love, kindness. Wake up the world to our interdependence, that we are one family. And then let this gentle, warm light expand to fill the universe. this warmth of love as far as your imagination allows. Let it go in all 10 directions. And then gradually begin to bring the energy back. Contracting like breath on a mirror. Until once again, it is a small sphere of light at the level of your heart. Penetrate this small light with your awareness. Become that light. And then watch as it too gets smaller, smaller, becoming imperceivable as it dissolves into clear light. Mahamudra. Rest evenly in momentary present awareness, with no one resting and nothing to be put into a place of resting. Rest evenly in momentary present awareness. And then arise once again as an agent of kindness. And take this in mind. This practice grows both our compassion and our wisdom, the wings that fly us to enlightenment. And we need to exercise and strengthen both of them. We grow our compassion when we expand our love with equanimity to include all beings, even those we think we don't like. Actually, it's their behavior we dislike. There's no truly existent, despicable person. This understanding grows our wisdom. For our Mahamudra practice to be successful, we need a good foundation. It must be grounded in the Lamrim. The very short prayer or the request at the beginning of this practice contains the whole path, beginning with devotion to our Lama and followed by the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to practice. First, remembering the qualities of our precious human life and its fragility, then having an understanding that our karma follows us like a shadow, along with the smorgasbord of sufferings that we face. And recognizing these four: perfect human life, death and impermanence, karma, and suffering, leads us to take refuge, to renounce the meaningless activities, and to seek liberation. And on top of that, with an understanding that every living being, those we love, those we dislike, and those to whom we're indifferent, all have the same wish for happiness and freedom from suffering. We cultivate a motivation to free them all, becoming bodhisattvas, enlightenment warriors. And thereby we practice the six perfections, imbued with an understanding of the emptiness of the three spheres. Maybe you've heard that, the emptiness of the three spheres. I remember, what does that mean? It's the emptiness, if you think of it, of the giver, if we're thinking of it in terms of the perfection of generosity, the emptiness of the giver, the emptiness of the receiver, and the emptiness of the gift. That none of them exist inherently or independently. Without a gift, there's no giver. Without a receiver, there's no gift. So it's like that with all actions. The actor, the action, and the object acted upon are all empty of any inherent existence, or Dudjom Rinpoche often says, existing from its own side as an independent entity. So it is the realization and recollection of this precious life that we have, which leads us to practice and bear the fruit of that practice. So it's really worthwhile to regularly bring it to mind, the opportunities that we have. No matter how much we want to jump into our higher practices, we shouldn't put that on a back burner. We would do well to bring it to mind often when we practice Mahamudra. Let it be our foundation, our ground, and keep remembering it. I think I remember His Holiness mentions that thinking about impermanence as being a good friend that's on your shoulder, death right here, who's saying, like Jiminy Cricket, be careful, be careful. How to behave, what to adopt and what to abandon. So keeping that in mind, so useful. The practice of Mahamudra, the great seal or emptiness, we're resting in the ultimate nature of mind, beyond concept. First, we learn with an open and interested mind what Mahamudra is. Fundamentally, it's the view of the most basic reality of our world, of our mind. And with this understanding, we reflect on and personalize that knowledge so that it becomes our own experience rather than just a theory or something intellectual. And then, having digested the meaning, we simply sit, going beyond knowing about Mahamudra to becoming one with it. Realizing the true nature of our mind generally doesn't happen by accident or pure luck or willpower alone. We rely on practice and key instructions for it to be revealed. The teachings mention that Mahamudra is divided into three parts. There's the ground, the path, and the fruit. The ground is fundamentally the view of the most basic reality of our mind and world. First, we understand this intellectually and then experientially with a direct perception. We understand, then we see directly the emptiness of ourself and phenomena. Path Mahamudra is the actual meditation practice. And the fruition Mahamudra is a description of what the path leads to. And there are a number of special techniques for looking at our mind to see its true nature. When we look inside with a clear, steady focus, the mind we see is transparent, spacious, and open. It feels like something's there, but when we look for it, there's no thing we can find. Our thoughts and emotions are vivid, but we can't put our hands on them. They melt away as soon as we focus on them. As soon as we notice them, they change. Even sights and sounds, which seem to be so real, they seem to be distinct entities. They evade our grasp when we search for their true identity. When we recognize the flowing, open, spacious quality of all our experiences, even for a moment, that's the emptiness side of the wisdom of emptiness. When we look at our mind, however, we see that it's not just spacious. There's a luminous, clear, and creative energy that is the source of our compassion and joy. There's a quality of wakefulness, of all-encompassing awareness. This is the wisdom side of the wisdom of emptiness. So when we actually recognize the union of this brilliant awareness and the open, transparent space, that's what's called the recognition of the wisdom of emptiness, or the true nature of mind. In such a moment, we don't experience just one side of the mind. We experience the wholeness of mind. We see the union of space, compassion, and awareness, which is called Mahamudra. And it's our Buddha nature. This wisdom mind is rich in qualities that bring us boundless happiness, insight, and corresponding desire to help our world, right? When we can see this emptiness, there's an automatic compassion that arises and a wish to be of benefit. If we can relax in this very moment, we're resting in the ground or the fundamental state of Mahamudra. This moment, Geshe Tempa, in his meditation that we'll do later, over and over says, rest evenly in momentary present awareness. Evenly. Without leaning this way or that way. Momentary, because present awareness is momentary. Rest evenly in momentary present awareness. And the way we rest is through the practice of meditation. And this is path Mahamudra. This is the path, meditation. When we can rest well, we're naturally in union with the goal or the fruit of the path. And there's no other Mahamudra to attain. Awake and free in this very moment. Just like that. But when we don't recognize the basic nature of our mind, then we have a problem, right? The luminous creative energy of mind's true nature is misperceived. And it arises as a dualistic world of self and other. And then clinging begins, confusion arises, and the whole world of suffering and bewilderment manifests. So instead of enjoying peace, illumination, and happiness, we experience our mind as afflicted with painful emotions. And we're bombarded by thoughts that lead us this way and that way. We experience anxiety and fear. We long for peace and contentment. That's the spinning of samsara, or cyclic existence, which is endless until we decide to stop by realizing mind's true state. So the beginning of samsara is when we fail to recognize that ground. And the end of samsara is nothing more complicated than recognizing our own nature of mind. When mind recognizes itself and can rest freely and relaxed in a state of openness, that in the moment is the end of our confusion and suffering. As Master Shantideva said, and I mentioned this before, the mind that sees the emptiness of the mind is nirvana. Recently, Gyabje Zopa Rinpoche gave an analogy that I thought was perfect. Using the analogy of the mind being like a television, Rinpoche said, we can change the channel of our mind to enlightenment or to hell, to samsara or nirvana, to happiness or to problems. He explained that the body and mind are totally different phenomena. The mind has no beginning. It continues from life to life. Mind is merely labeled on that which is clear and perceives objects. Therefore, there's no real mind. The emptiness of a real mind is Buddha nature. Because of this ultimate nature of the mind, the obscurations are not one with the mind and can be removed. In this way, all sentient beings can become free from suffering forever and achieve enlightenment. So I repeat, when mind recognizes itself and can rest freely and relaxed in a state of openness, that is the end of our confusion and suffering. Recapping Master Tilopa's first 6 verses that were shared last week, Tilopa begins with a supplication to Mahamudra. He says, I bow down to that glorious, spontaneously arising state. Mahamudra can't be described. Unless, my Naropa, it is taught to one possessing enough intelligence to endure the hardships of the spiritual path and devotion to their Lama. One like you with a heart pure enough to hear the purest things. Kyeho, cast your gaze well upon worldly things which cannot ever stay. They're just a dream, an illusion. Illusions and dreams which in actual fact can't ever truly exist. So learn to find them sorrowful and give up these games of the world. Let go of your fondness for your retinue. Turn away from all your loved ones. Walk alone into the forest to an isolated hermitage and practice meditation. Reside within the state of non-meditation. Reach that thing which cannot be reached, and you will reach Mahamudra. Things of this cycle are meaningless. just feeding your ignorant likes and dislikes. The things you do lack any essence. So focus upon the ultimate essence. You won't see the object beyond all thought with the things you're thinking. You won't find the object beyond all deeds with the things that you're doing. If you really long to reach this object beyond all thought, beyond all deeds, take a trip inside your mind and rest there within the naked mind. Penetrate the putrid swamp of your conceptions. Don't feed or strangle what appears. Just take it as it comes. And when there is no more to grasp or to let go, you are released into Mahamudra. So we went over those last week with words of commentary. And we'll continue now with the 7th verse, where Master Tilopa advises some pointing out now how to think. He says, picture a fertile tree with widespread leaves and branches. Cut the root, and all its billion leaves and branches wither. Picture now a darkness which is gathered for 1 billion years, and yet a single lamp can dispel all the darkness gathered there. So when we cut the root of ignorance with the light of wisdom, all the causes of suffering wither. Our attachment to an ego-based reality begins to transform. And Master Tilopa goes on. So it is with your own mind. A single instant of the clear light can dispel 1 billion years of bad deeds and obstructions. And if one of weaker mind cannot rest upon this object, have them place the mind upon a crucial point of inner wind. Use a myriad of different viewpoints and myriad visualizations until you can coerce the mind into staying in that state. So that was verse 8. The distinction between deception and liberation lies in whether we understand the ever-present nature of our own mind or not. In Mahamudra, that's the whole thing. Knowing our own face is liberation. Not knowing our own face is samsara. This is not something far distant from us. The difference is made in a single instant. Looking out is samsara. Looking within is nirvana. And then he goes on to suggest with verse 9. Imagine you're studying the entire sphere of the sky. You'll come to stop delineating the middle from the ends. It's the same. When studying the mind, using the mind, images and feelings stop, and you come to rest beyond all thought, seeing mind's true nature, unsurpassed enlightenment. So in our practice, mind is looking at mind, where there is no object to focus on, no action of looking, and no one looking. When we speak of looking at the mind with the mind, we might say, okay, now I'm going to look at my mind. And we sit down cross-legged and look, wondering if there's something to see. But there's nothing at all to see. What we cultivate is an absence of seeing, the sacred seeing of non-seeing. Mind looks at mind in a manner whereby there's no object, no action of looking, and no one looking. Looking at the mind with the mind, conceptual thoughts begin to cease. So without adding any more thought, when a thought arises, we let it arise. We don't make anything of it. We don't approve it. We don't reject it. Thoughts are naturally pacified. We can't stop thought. Cessation of thought doesn't mean that thought is actually stopped. This is where we might get discouraged if we think that we have too many thoughts. As Milarepa exclaimed, this movement of mind cannot be stopped, even by putting it in an iron container. And in the same way that in looking at the sky, we find it has no periphery and no center, we find this is also true of mind. We can't find it. When I was in 3-year retreat, the first year, I listened to Dr. Alan Wallace's podcast from his Phuket 8-week Phuket retreats. And I did 2 of them back to back. It was very worthwhile, these Shanta retreats. And he mentioned that one great master suggests that the practice of expanding the mind to the infinitude of space and then contracting it back, conjoining that with the breath, similar to what we do with sending out our loving kindness and bringing it back. This same thing with expanding to the infinitude of space and contracting back. It's very useful. And Alan led a practice where we sent our awareness out in the 4 directions, sitting, sending awareness out to the left, and then bringing it back and sending it out to the right and bringing it back. Not that fast, but then behind and in front, and then the zenith and the nadir. So all these directions, sending the mind out and bringing it back, you realize, it's a very powerful way to realize that mind is everywhere. It has no boundaries. When Master Tilopa suggests that you come to rest beyond all thought, it's important to note that thought is naturally pacified. It requires energy to survive. So we don't actually stop thought. So cessation of thought does not mean that thought is actively stopped. So again, when thoughts arise, we let it arise. We're not doing anything. We're simply present moment awareness, and this thought is arising. So we don't make anything of it. We don't feed or strangle, as Tilopa says. It's naturally pacified, or self-liberated. This is reiterated in the next verse, verse 10, whereby he says, picture now a layer of fog that just dissipates into thin air without going anywhere, without staying anywhere. It's the same with all the layers of conceptions rising from your mind. Waves of thought just dissipate by seeing your own mind. Settled in a non-objectifying state, stopping all effort, we gently relax. And with vigilance, we see the mind. And when we see the mind, vigilance, right? Present moment awareness. With vigilance, these waves of thought just dissipate. When thoughts arise, we know they're a mere manifestation of the infinite possibilities of emptiness. They have no true essence. So now we have an opportunity to settle into our meditation seat and study the mind using the mind. Remembering that when we cut the root of ignorance with the light of wisdom, all the causes of suffering wither, like cutting the root of that tree. Our attachment to an ego-based reality then begins to transform. So please settle into your meditation posture, which is the foundation. And I'm going to set our timer for 20 minutes. And we'll go through Geshe Tem's meditation, meditation. And at the end, there will be some time if you have some questions or comments about your experience throughout last week, or perhaps your experience this morning. So find your meditation seat. And as Geshe Tempa says, wherever you're sitting, take a good seat and sit fully. Take a few deep breaths. Straighten your spine. Place your hands in the position of meditative equipoise. Raise your shoulders just slightly and let them drop. Let them relax. Let there be a slight curve in your neck. Your tongue rests naturally on the upper palate, relaxed. Your eyes are not closed, but open, looking straight out in front. Gazing at the in-between, unfocused. Then settle the movement of the breath naturally. Inhaling and exhaling is natural and easy. With that, let all the parts, all the limbs, fully relax. Let both the outer coarse body and the inner subtle body relax. With the body relaxed in that way, remain upright, allowing the mind to settle evenly within, resting evenly in momentary present awareness, not chasing after the past, not anticipating the future, not analyzing the present, resting evenly in momentary present awareness. Rest evenly without one who does the resting, without something to be put into a place of resting. Rest evenly without blocking or encouraging. Leave behind all effort, all exertion, and settle evenly. Rest evenly beyond hope and fear. Rest evenly like space without a center or periphery. Whatever thought or mental affliction arises, whatever feeling or experience arises, rest evenly without blocking or encouraging. Rest evenly so they dissolve on their own. They are self-liberated. relaxed, at ease in the present moment of awareness. Rest evenly in that. Rest in a non-conceptual state beyond all mental engagement, without mentally engaging with anything at all. And we'll continue in silence. So when we end our meditation, it's very useful to pause and to take stock, to recognize, excuse me, the state of our mind and body. Personally, I really need to make a conscious effort to do that because I'm ready to get on with the next thing. And so pausing helps me to bring this peaceful present moment into the next thing. Helps me recall what's most important. So it's not just kind of jumping up or going quickly to dedicate, but rather it's having that sense, that feeling. Yeah. So maybe somebody has a question or a comment, some experience you want to share. You're welcome. There's a little, let me see. Oh. Someone mentioned that they had an echo. I went into the chat because I thought maybe somebody put a question in the chat. Somebody had an echo. Anyway, so there is an emoji at the bottom. Where is it? That allows you to raise your hand. Isn't there something? Somebody know? I don't see it in mine. Isn't that funny? Anyway, if you have a question, do this. And if you don't, that's okay. You know, don't ever feel like you have to say anything. So often there's a lot going on in our world. Each one of us has various and sundry times, you know, in cycles of things that are really difficult. And when that happens, we don't really want to sit down and look at our mind. We don't want to see that. We want to distract ourselves from that. But if we can sit and begin to settle, feeling that sense of relaxation in the body, and then settling, allowing the mind to settle around that. And where it says, you know, not blocking or encouraging, not feeding or strangling, it's like not saying, no, I'm not going to think about that. But what happens, a thought comes, and then we augment it. You know, there's another one coming. We build on it. So we don't stop the thought because the thoughts will come. But if we leave them alone without contemplating them, without adding more concept, they will automatically dissipate like fog in the sun. Is that your experience? Yeah, please, dear.
The fog dissipating was perfect for me. I was able to use that several times, so thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was good. I did have one moment where I couldn't go any further. You know, as I was trying to go into the fog, trying to make everything dissipate behind me, I came to a stop. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's me, but anything that you...
So I think I think here it's useful. So what it also says is not doing with beyond effort. So there is the idea that the fog is present, okay, that's a good analogy. And then letting the fog dissipate. And it could be through going right through it or letting it go behind, but it's not thinking that it has to do anything, that it has to go here or go there in any particular way. But it is useful to have these analogies. For me, it's also useful to say there isn't anyone here. There's no meditator, there's no active meditating, and there's no object upon which I'm meditating. So sometimes I bring that to mind if I'm trying, if I'm exerting some kind of effort. Because this idea of residing in a state of non-meditation, that's basically what it means. It means there isn't a meditator, there's no one resting, and nothing to be put into a state of resting. And when that happens, there's an ability, there's a sense, I have a sense, I should say. I have a sense that, oh, only awareness. That's all. And it gives me an opportunity to let go. For me, actually, meditation is a lifesaver. Because when negative mind arises, because there's been some kind of kerfuffle, then we can stay in that, just keep going, spinning round and round and round about he said that and she did that and they did that and they're probably going to do it again and next week it's going to be like that, and if I go there it's going to be like that. We just do this. Whereas instead, I say, take it to the mat. Just go to the cushion and sit and begin to see that there's no one that experienced that. There was no experience and there was no object of that experience. Not really, not its true essence. Because we react to something based on our habits, based on what our projection of what it is. It's our projection. And then we react, and then we say things, and we snowball it, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until, we would like to backpedal. Oh, I wish I could suck that back up, But unfortunately, doesn't happen that way. So this is an opportunity to really see how we have the ability, through the power of seeing the mind, to not get sucked into the content. Sucked into the content. It's just like a vortex. It's really hard to get out once you've been sucked in, because then, we tell someone about it, and then they tell someone about it. And before long, it's a big story, when it doesn't have to be that way. So whatever's useful, then adopt it. And whatever's not useful, abandon it. And it's not easy to do. So it requires patience and practice, and it requires a consistency. Lama Yeshe used to say, we come to retreat and we get all inspired. And then we go out and we say, I'm going to sit, I'm going to do like this, and I'm going to do like this. And then, it's like being a mushroom student, he said. Don't be a mushroom student. A mushroom comes out and it gets really big and then it's gone. In the same way, we decide, oh, January 1st, I'm getting a gym membership. And every day I'm going, every day. And, it happens for a little while, but then we lose our enthusiasm. So not to make it so big, make your practice doable. Make your practice something that you look forward to every day, not something that's a grind that, oh, now I have to do that. Oh, and then if I don't do it, I'm guilty, like that. You just have some practice where you keep the thread. If you can keep the thread and not lose it, and if you lose it, quickly go back and pick it up again. Sometimes we think, oh yeah, well, I haven't been to the gym. I think I'll have another piece of chocolate cake. So we sabotage ourselves by not recognizing the benefit. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to sit down and take stock of your body and mind when you first sit. Maybe it's just almost out of control, so difficult to pull yourself onto that cushion. So you see that's what it is, but you make a determination for this amount of time, I'm going to stay. And you set a timer. You set your intention. This isn't about me, not just about me. Yeah, I do want to be happy and free from suffering, but it's also about every single living being with whom I am interconnected. As His Holiness says, we're one world family. We're all connected. So by thinking like that, oh, okay. Just before I went into 3-year retreat, I made a list of as many people as I could think of in my life. People that back as far as I could go. And I typed them up and centered them on the page so that I printed out many sheets and I cut them. And then I made a scroll and I hung it up in front of at my altar. I hung that up there. And so whenever I would get to a place where I said, okay, I'm done, or, oh, do I really have to? I would see all of these names of people for whom I am doing this practice, not just for myself, but for all these beings. So if we can think when we watch the news, this unbelievable suffering we see, when we sit on our cushion, not just for me, but for all these beings who are suffering. Oh, if I could just know exactly how to behave in every moment, if I could do that so that I could begin to ease the suffering of the world, how wonderful that would be. So not just for myself. And then there's a little bit of courage that comes. And then it's like, that's where the foundation comes in. You think about, well, I do have this precious human life, right? I've got this. I have the intelligence, I have the leisure, I have the opportunity. But you know what? I'm going to die. And I don't know when. So now's the time to just harness that energy, eliminate all of this habit of mind that keeps me trapped. Because, there's suffering to be had if I cannot accentuate and actualize this path. So that foundation, those 4 thoughts that turn the mind to practice are critical, especially when we don't feel like practicing. We've got to just jump right back in and say, okay, why am I doing this? And give ourselves a little cheerleading, be our own cheerleader for our practice. And then at the end of our practice, we see where we are when we sit down, and then we practice. And at the end of the practice, see where we are. And then recognize there has been some shift. Recognize the shift. Is the body more relaxed? How about the mind? Is it more relaxed? Doesn't mean that whirlwind of activity, mental and physical, is not going to come back. But at least we can see that there is an impact when we sit. There is. We see that over time, especially over time, we see. So when big things happen, take it to the mat and practice. Okay? So thank you very much for coming. I hope you have a delightful day, and let's dedicate all of this positive energy that we might quicker than quick become Buddhas without delay of even a second, to be able to spread our love and light and wisdom and compassion all over this world. that everything we say, everything we do, every thought that arises is couched with a wish to benefit all beings. And we dedicate also to the long lives of all of the spiritual masters who are teaching paths to happiness, to freedom, to enlightenment. May they live long and have fruitful lives. And all those in our own life, particularly those who are unwell in the moment, may their circumstances become positive. May they be well and happy. And all those who've passed away, may they have fortunate rebirths. And may even the word war become obsolete. Okay, my friends, thank you very much. Be well, enjoy your week.
Thank you so much, Elaine.
It's my pleasure.
Absolutely wonderful.
Good.